Well, hello and welcome, or welcome back to Read Becca. It is that time again where we reach around June, July, and we're hit with the wave of mid-year book freak-out tags. I am, in fact, not freaking out at all, feeling very good about this year. And I think it's been maybe one of my better reading years ever. Just putting out that energy into the world and hoping that the second half continues on as good as the first half. So it's been a great reading year. So we're going to kind of do this a little bit rapid fire-ish. The first prompt is best book of the year so far, and I gotta say, Simon Jimenez with The Spear Cuts Through Water is a total standout. Even though I've read some really fantastic things, this will be hard to beat in the second half. This is so different from anything I've ever read. It's really mythic and folkloric fantasy. A standalone. It's got gorgeous prose written in first, second, and third person. Sometimes a little bit at the same time. It is really, really cool and innovative and just cemented Jimenez as an author I love. So this is my best book so far this year. Our second prompt is best sequel, and I've read a good amount of sequels, not as many as I would like to have, but there is also a clear standout here with Nona the Ninth. I absolutely love this book. It's my favorite in the Locked Tomb series, and the entire cast is total standouts in terms of characterization. The audio narration by Moira Quirk was stellar. It was just a great experience reading this book and being back in the world with this cast, and really, really loved it. Prompt 3 is a new release you haven't read but want to get to yet, and I'm gonna go with a fairly obvious one. This is my latest pre-order, Witch King by Martha Wells. This is a new epic fantasy by this author that I love, and so I'm super dying to get to it. I got it in, I want to read it soon, not immediately, but we'll get to it in the second half of the year. I also really, really want to go for the obvious one, Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, who will be showing up later. Prompt number 4 is anticipated releases for the second half of the year. I have so many. Usually second half of the year is a little bit lighter, right up until that chunk at November, which haven't been announced yet usually. So things I can foresee that I'm really excited about are, in terms of sequels, we've got a prequel, actually, Bookshops and Bone Dust coming out. That's the prequel to Legends and Lattes. We've got Mammoth at the Gates by Mi Vo coming out. We have Starter Villain by John Scalzi. John Scalzi is reliable, fun reading. I'm really looking forward to that one, especially because of the cover. Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. I don't know for sure if I'm going to read this one, but I want to at this point. I'm gonna wait and see how early reviews talk about it, because it is a horror novel, so if it's super duper graphic, I'm probably gonna pass on that one. But I am very curious to see what Chuck Tingle does or Dr. Chuck Tingle, I'm so sorry, what Dr. Chuck Tingle does with a more serious novel. And then there's one that I just recently learned about that I'm not certain is actually gonna be coming out, but I think it is, and it's Alebrijes, I think I'm pronouncing that right, hopefully, we'll see, which is the new book from Donna Barbara Higuera. I read The Last Quintista last year. It was a big Newbery Medal Award winner. I really want to try out another book from her, so I'm very excited for that one. Prompt 5, biggest disappointment, and unfortunately this was Tread of Angels by Rebecca Rowan Horse. Fortunately, it was short, it's just a novella, but it started out so strong that I was really excited going in. The world building initially was great, but then it was just kind of a mess. It was a little all over the place. Everything felt like there was nothing connecting anything about that world building that I loved with the actual story, and I just didn't love it. It was a major disappointment. Prompt number 6 is biggest surprise, and my biggest surprise shouldn't really be a surprise, but it also kind of is because it was a T. Kingfisher book, and I love T. Kingfisher. But it was What Moves the Dead. Fungal horror. I have liked T. Kingfisher's horror before, and I'm willing to go outside of my comfort zone to try it. This particular one, I was almost certain I was not going to be able to get along with. It does have body horror. It does have some animal horror. Yeah, and it gets a little graphic, but I was surprised that I was able to make it through that. None of that actually bothered me in this particular book. The way that it was executed really just handled those aspects very well. And so not only did I love this one, I also went on to read The House with Good Bones, her new horror book, and loved it as well. The next prompt is your new favorite author, and this is a really easy one because this is The Mountain and the Sea by Ray Naylor. I also read some short fiction by Ray Naylor in deciding whether I wanted to buy this, and I've absolutely loved everything I read from him. So he's writing this just very innovative, fresh science fiction from everything that I read so far. And this is his debut novel, but he also has a prolific catalog of short fiction that he's written. So I have a lot to dive into that I am looking forward to, but I really hope he does continue to put out some novel-length works, because this was one of the freshest things that I've read this year, and I loved it. I think we're on 8. The next prompt is the one that everyone waffles over, and that's the newest fictional crush. So I don't really get fictional crushes, but we're gonna say. I think I probably had a fictional crush on Miss Shibata from Diary of a Void because of just how she sort of lives her life in this absurd story. I also think that my major new fictional crush is probably Mac from Other Birds. Now, go with me. He is a romantic interest, but it's not a romance book. He's been through a lot of really difficult and traumatic times, but he's not hardened. He's still very soft. And he's also a chef. So dealing with those difficult times, he was trained up by the woman that took care of him to cook and show his love for others and the community around him in his cooking. And so he's become this award-winning chef. So he's got this love of food, but he's also isolated as a person very much. So he's kind of a loner, and he shares his love and connectedness with people through food. He also has a cat who he loves, and I just love that, the cat guy sort of trope. So Mac is a wonderful, wonderful new fictional crush for me. Number 9 is new favorite character, and I already mentioned the entire Nona, the 9th cast. Fabulous, especially Nona specifically. I just want to fold her up and put her in my pocket. But continuing on with cute characters, I want to give this one to someone else, and I will say Sinrak the Dapper of The Voyages of Sinrak the Dapper. Sinrak is a lesbian capybara who wears a bow tie. She is so caring and adventurous. She's a wonderful character. I love her. And she also has a sort of sidekick who is an additional favorite character, and that is Benj, the trans chinchilla who, even though chinchillas are sort of desertous creatures, really need like sand baths and stuff, he loves water and spends a lot of time bonding with a sea creature in the story, and just is such a lovely, wonderful little character that, again, much like Nona, I want to fold Benj up and put him in my pocket. Prompt number 10 is book that made you cry. And this was very easy to answer since I only cried for one book, I think. That's Babel by R.F. Kuang, foreshadowing, as I said. So Babel is such an emotionally powerful book. The topics it's covering. And the moment where I cried, you can see it coming from a mile away. So there's no surprise to it whatsoever. But the swell of emotions, the way that it's written is so weighty and heavy on you, and the knowledge of what it means just has this power to it that just knocked me over emotionally. So I loved this, every single thing about it, and including that it made me cry. Prompt 11 is a book that made you happy, and for this one I have to go with a very recent read within the past couple weeks, and that is The Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich, because it was just a delight. It's a very cute little graphic novel with cross-dressing and romance between two lovely ladies in a sort of pseudo-medievalish, but with modern touches. Yeah, it's anachronistic, whatever. It's a wonderful, fun, happy, pun-filled, cheese-filled book. Nearly finished. Prompt number 12 is the most beautiful book you've purchased. And that is The Best of Catherine M. Valenti, Volume 1. Big, chunky book, lovely cats. This is the special Subterranean Press edition. I adore it. Okay, question 13 is the last standard question prompt, and that is books you need to read before the end of the year. And of course, I don't need to read anything. Well, I do need to read my BookTube prize books, so that's the baseline here. Is I have to read 6 BookTube prize books, and I've already kind of mentioned what those were, and I'm 1 1/4 of the way through. So I've got quite a few to read remaining. And I'm planning to read the next round, so I will have at least 3, possibly 6 more books to read for that. So we've got a good lineup, but I'm always an overachiever. So let's talk some other books that I also feel like I need to read. We have Genesis of Misery by Neon Yang and Goliath by Tochi Onyebuchi. They're both sci-fi, they're both kind of dense, I think, but they sound like I'm going to love them from everything I've heard. Both negative and positive things I've heard about these make them sound like my sort of thing. So Goliath, in fact, I have had out from the library so long, it's going back today because I'm out of time. This one I actually just checked out recently, so I have plenty of time. But I keep thinking I'm going to be able to like slot them in a little bit here and there, and it just is not happening. I'm really going to need to focus and put some mental energy toward these ones though. So that's what makes it hard to get to them. So hopeful, but these are 2 I definitely want to get to before the end of the year. We also have physical TBR shelf books that I really need to get to. Yeah, so The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood, The Betrayals by Bridget Collins, sorry, I forgot the author there, and The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Colbert. All 3 of those have been on my physical TBR for multiple years. In fact, The Sixth Extinction has been on multiple monthly TBRs as well. I said at the start of this year I was going to get to it right away. We're not going to let it roll over. I'm going to read it in January. And then I didn't. So these 3, I don't want to roll over my yearly TBR again. I want to get them done. I absolutely need to finish those. In addition to the official standard prompts, people often tack things on, extra prompts they want to talk about. I, in this case, want to talk goal-related topics because I have very flexible, loosey-goosey goals this year, and so I kind of want to add on some things about goals-ish that I'm feeling very optimistic and successful about for this year. Now, because I don't want to do a mid-year goal check-in since my goals were very light. So, optimistic topics. Number 1 is indirectly goal-related. It's that I removed tomes from my goals. I had reading a number of tomes, which were books over 500 pages, on my past year's goals, and I took it off this year because I felt like I was keeping that up. And in fact, I've reaffirmed myself on that because I've read 8 tomes already this year, so more than 1 a month, which is wild. That's more than I ever set the goal at, was, you know, about 1 a month typically. And so I'm just crushing it with that no longer needing to be a goal because I am reading a lot of big chunky books. The other goal is TBRs, and first my physical TBR. So I haven't read as much as I would like, but I've read a number of short things and finished them. So those are knocked off my physical TBR shelf for the year. And I am in progress on a couple of really big chunky books that have been either sitting on there for more than a year, or I had put off adding them to that TBR until this year because they were really kind of big chunky books. So I feel like I'm making progress at that. And once I've finished those, I will feel very accomplished having knocked those off. So my physical TBR, I'm feeling great about. The other one is my monthly TBRs. So maybe this isn't a success, but I do feel like it is. So I've done terribly at reading from my monthly TBRs in the month that I set them. I've done great at actually reading those books that I set out to read, even if it's a month or 2 or 3 later. So I have been keeping track of everything that I've put on a monthly TBR and marking off that I've actually finished it, even if that is a month or 2 or 3 later. And I've been doing that. So I only have a few books that are maybe 3 months out that I haven't read. So have I read everything I put on my TBR last month? No. Will I? I do think I have a pretty good chance of actually getting to all or most of it. And so that is making me feel very good because I am putting things on my monthly TBRs that I really want to read, and I am prioritizing getting to them even if the month has passed. So that's making me feel very good this year. So that is it for my mid-year book freakout tag for 2023. Yay! If you have a channel, I would love to see yours. If you don't have a channel, please share your answers down below because this is like one of the most exciting and fun ways to share what we're reading, what we're enjoying, what we're disappointed in, and what made us cry and laugh. That is it for me today. Thank you all so much for watching.